We've come to Brands, which is a circuit I've had the most success on in my career. We came here with the bike set up the same, or very much the same as Snetterton. Some things you have to change, like the gearing to suit this circuit, and then you change the gearing, so the wheelbase changes. So then when you change the wheelbase, you have to then alter some settings and suspension. So there's some stuff you really can't avoid changing. However, more or less, all the things we were able to leave, we did leave the same as Snet, and the bike's working quite a good way to start with here. We still need to refine a few areas, not only for my feeling, but to achieve the lap time that's necessary to get down to, which is what the race pace, let's say, will be. To finish the first practice with the fastest time is the best opening Friday I've had in a long time. In fact, it's been years since I was fastest in the opening practice of BSB. So it's a good sign that the bike's in a good working range to be that quick in the first practice. Made some changes between practice 1 and practice 2. I ended up 5th in the second practice, so still quite a good position really when you look at how close the times are. So we just need to do some very, what I would say, like fine tuning tomorrow, and I think it'll be okay. So optimism is high, and we anticipate good qualifying and results. We've got to see what happens. At the moment, it looks like we could get some rain, so have to wait and see how that turns out.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. I think obviously it's the same for everybody. You know, we last minute trying to figure out which way to go, whether it's going to, you know, because we've had the rain threaten a few times this weekend and it hasn't come. So, you know, it was forecast, but we just didn't know if it was going to come immediately or if we were going to get one dry lap and then it comes. So, kind of hanging on to the last moment, trying to decide what to do with the bike. And you know, we didn't have time to change to full wet settings, so it was just put wet tyres in and then back off what you can just with the spanners on the outside of the setting changes, and just go with that. And I guess that's the same as what probably everybody else has done too, so I imagine it's the same for everybody. But yeah, I just felt it was a really tricky conditions riding what's mostly a dry setup in wet conditions.
Well, with the race.
and it rained just before the start of qualifying, and that made it really difficult for everybody. The first time everyone's been out in the wet since testing. But front row start for BMW and FHO racing. Josh, that was a tough session for everyone to manage and to deal with, given that you hadn't had any experience here in the wet this weekend so far. Talk us through it, because it seemed everyone took it easy to start with, and it seemed to be that you had to feel your way around before those laps at the end.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. You know, a few times this weekend we've had the rain sort of threatening, but it hasn't actually materialised. So we're kind of ready to go and maybe sneak a dry lap in at the start of qualifying and hopefully beat the rain. But the session got delayed, so then we're sort of waiting to see what the weather was going to do, and it was just sort of sprinkling, so like it's not enough to go full wets, but then it didn't stop, so it was sort of like the last minute, chuck wets in and go. Ideally we would put a full wet setting in to change the shock and the springs and stuff. Obviously no time for that. I'm sure it was the same for everybody. So I just went on my dry bike setup more or less, just with some preload backed off and with wet tyres. And yeah, then early laps felt quite tricky. Engine brake was for the dry, so way too strong, and it kept like making the rear of the bike slide on entry. So that was, you know, obviously something that you can learn and adapt to a little. And as the laps went on, we got a bit quicker and we're able to go onto the front row. So I'm pleased with that. You know, given the conditions and the way the setup was, I'm sure we can adjust the bike a little bit for the race. Now we know it's fully going to be wet. So and we're starting off the front row, so perfect really to put in a good battle.
Congratulations on the front row, Josh.
Thank you.
And then we've just had a wet set, and I've been able to go on front in third position. So that's a good sign that, you know, the bike's competitive in all the different ranges of conditions we've got to ride in. So yeah, now we've got to, you know, try and put a good race together. Obviously starting off the front row is a perfect position to get started. We've been getting really good starts with the bike the last couple of races, so hopefully that continues. I feel like we've guaranteed it's going to be wet right through the race. It's not going to change or become drying or any of those sorts of variations that can sometimes change the result. So it should be just full wet settings, full wet conditions, and see how we go. I do tend, you know, as history would suggest, that I have a strong results in wet conditions, so I'm not particularly, you know, scared or bothered by the wet. I prefer it was dry, but we do tend to ride well in the wet, so there's every chance that we can get a result here this afternoon. So yeah, please, yeah, cross your fingers or pray or whatever it is that you're into to give us the best of support, please.
The pace and everything was consistent throughout practice, and even in qualifying we had a last minute shower and I was on the front row for the first race, but then everything just seemed to turn bad and sour after that. You know, the first race I can only imagine was maybe a bad tyre or something, because the bike just didn't perform, which was in wet conditions. I got a poor result. That meant I was on a bad position on the grid for the dry race today, and I made a couple of places, but not enough to be satisfied.
It's hard to believe, you know, we've had such a good weekend so far, practice, qualifying, every session out we've been strong, up there, top 3 or 4 most sessions. You know, obviously we can go into the next race and update those settings and give the bike a little bit more power. So, and the way we do that is it's a ride-by-wire throttle system on the bikes. It's the same on all the other machines as well. So when I open the throttle, it's not a cable that goes to the you know, the butterflies on the inlet section. it just goes to the ECU, and then the ECU then decides how much those butterflies will open. So they can control, if I give 100%, they might choose to only give like 90%, given the grip levels that are available. So that's constantly being evaluated and being adjusted. So that's how we'll give the bike more power than what I've explained. So when I start to get nearer to 100%, the engine will actually be giving more closer to 100%. So the power will be stronger. But the downside to that is potentially more wheelie, more tyre wear, and more wheel spin. So in that race, I was already sort of struggling, like coming out of the corner they call Druids, which is turn 2 at the top there. I'd try and pick up the throttle, and I was already having the rear spin. So if we give it more power, that's only going to get worse. It's going to make my job harder, but that's part of the game. We're just going to have to man up a bit in the next one and try and make the most of it. Brands Hatch is normally a really good circuit for me, and like I said, throughout all the practice sessions we've been competitive, but it's so disheartening, when it really counts, when the points are on the line, is when I've had the worst results this weekend, and I can't give you better answers than we are trying, and we will make some changes to try and progress further.
And then the final race, we made a couple of small tweaks, nothing revolutionary, and didn't make it past turn 1.
Into turn 1, but drama from the off as the rear wheel of Ryan Vickers caught the front wheel of Josh Brookes, and he went off.
I kind of got pushed out wide, I think it was by Haslam, and at that point Vickers was closing in on the corner like it's normal, you would expect, and I was just in the wrong place and couldn't avoid contact. And in trying to pull away from Vickers to obviously not affect him more than necessary, it just meant that I was left, coming off the worst. So I didn't crash on track. I just kind of got caught up and then had to take evasive action sort of thing, and then went to the gravel at that speed. You're just a passenger, and the wall's so close. There's not even a period of time you can get sort of like adjust and move. So ultimately ended up in a crash. So just disappointed. Everything we tried to do this weekend should have been good, failed on us. So just have to regroup and come back to the next event, as everyone does after a bad one.